Morning. The Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture welcomes you. We are pleased to greet you and very pleased to have you with us in this event of the Youth Technological Challenge. I am Priscilla Zúñiga, a specialist in international technical cooperation from the Technical Cooperation Directorate at IICA headquarters. Today, we are pleased to count on the support of International Youth Network 4-H, I for Nature, and Fabretto, as well as Bayer, the University Cenfotec Partnership for Innovation and Partnership, and the Zamorano University Strategic Partners that bet, as well as IICA, bet on youth for agents as agents of change. Together with us is our Director General, Manuel Lotero, Deputy Director Loide, and the team Raíz Rural, the winning team of the Conceptual Challenge, as well as colleagues from the Institute, Julio Solís, Mariela Zúñiga, Liliana Ramírez, Celia Castellano, Carlos Ruiz, Raúl Gamboa, and Olman Castro, that are part of the organizing team of this challenge. Remember, you can follow us through our social media, Facebook in Spanish and YouTube in English. We will have an opportunity for questions and answers that you can contact through www.menting.com, and access code is 53369885. We will place this information on our Zoom chat as well as in the social media. To begin with, we will hear the words of welcome of our Director General, Manuel Lotero. Well, thank you, Priscilla. Good morning, everyone. Special greetings to the Deputy Director Loide and all the team that has been working so hard to build this hemispheric rural youth group. I would like to start by highlighting that the world in our continent is experiencing a very special situation on occasion of the pandemic. We have very worrisome figures and data, particularly with the resurge of poverty and food insecurity has increased threefold as compared to the pre-COVID. But agriculture has faced a challenge. Someone was saying that our rural workers do not do anything else much than insist on their dreams to plant a seed and to make food products. And in this sense, I would like to express my recognition to all the actors in productive chains in our hemisphere that have been capable of generating a supply of food products more than enough to feed our population. There have been problems with access to food, obviously. This is perhaps exogenous to the rural world, but we cannot ignore it. With this, our agricultural exports have remained over and above global exports. And this is another piece of evidence of a region, a continent that is the most important net food exporter in the world, and where we need to continue working to for the endogenous production of food and to meet the needs of international markets. Of course, in this fight against the pandemic, with social distancing and as vaccinations advance, someday we will overcome this crisis, but nothing is going to be the same. And the only possible way out is to build a better new normal. In building a better new normal, we will see another agriculture, and we have to be very clear about this. An agriculture that has to be weather smart, adapting us to extreme climate events that are ever more frequent. But at the same time, nutritionally has to be smart also. The new agriculture has to understand that it is not just a matter of production, of volumes, but also quality. Our consumers demand, and we have to understand this, they demand healthier food, more nutritional food products, because the health of our peoples is built very especially with a new food quality. That new agriculture also calls for being socially responsible, much more inclusive. We cannot continue to admit these gaps, particularly those that divide small producers, excluding youth and women in the dream. The dream here at IICA is that our rural areas, once and for all, have to be areas of progress, of well-being, that where jobs are generated, particularly new jobs that this agriculture will demand, which will be so knowledge intensive. And we see a big opportunity here, a big partnership between the productivity that will have to continue to increase and the environment. All of this, when we try to integrate these concepts, is what will be discussed at the United Nations World Food Summit. For IICA, these are agri-food systems. We cannot think of food if we cannot think of agriculture production. We cannot think of transformation if we do not give due importance to science and technology. And that is why I am so pleased to see the creation of this community has added technological development into a fundamental element. Science and technology as a fundamental input to build a new generation of policies. All those things we started to hear, precision agriculture, gene editing, traceability, 3D copies of food products are things that will soon become collective language. And for this, we need youth to take part fully in productive processes. They are the generation of the future. You are the generation of the present, and you must build this new dream. There is no way without youth. All of this would be a utopia, or perhaps, since this is Monday, it may sound somewhat pessimistic. This is a nightmare if we do not have a possible transformation of this potential. I am at a given age, I am quite tired and talking about agriculture as a potential, and evidently for Latin America, the time has come to transform all these opportunities into a reality. Some statistics, you will know we are a young region. And this gives us a different positioning as compared to other continents with 160 million youth between the ages of 15 and 29 years, some 30 million of which live in rural areas. This is an asset we cannot waste. And instead of thinking of building walls so that youth do not leave our countries, what we have to do is through technological innovation and by opening up opportunities, we must ensure that more youth can think once again about agriculture, living and working, not necessarily in rural areas, but at least thinking and working in favor of that new agriculture. According to ECLAC information, by the end of 2019, there's almost 40% young people between the ages of 15 and 21 years that are in poverty. And another 11% is homeless. So with this new agriculture, we hope we can correct and reduce these percentages very soon. The other worrisome element is that according to ILO, there are 30 million young people, 20% that is of the total in the region, that are called no work, no study. And this is something that must be corrected in the sense that this expanded agriculture and the agri-food systems can include and generate new opportunities for them. What are we doing at IICA? Pay attention to this matter, creating the best conditions so that you youngsters can be the true protagonists and makers of your own future. We have an e-learning platform where in 2020 we had 60,000 students. We had a few hackathons, like the last hackathon in Ecuador, with the outstanding participation, rewarding 5 proposals for entrepreneurial activities and focusing always on creating a community of rural youth in the Americas, where we say that dialogue must occur at all levels. And I emphasize that the protagonist should be young people. So with the importance we gave to the International Youth Day, we continue to work knowing that it's not enough, but that you will always have an institution like IICA that will be supporting you. And based on all these challenges, we hope we can find an opportunity for youth to be the protagonists and builders of that future. So I congratulate all the IICA team that has been working so hard. Priscilla, Mariela, Ileana, all the ICT group, I encourage you to keep working. Do not waste time. There's still a chance, but amongst us all, we must be the builders of this transformation of rural areas that can no longer be isolated, but instead we must build bridges with urban centers. There are 6 more months yet to go for the UN summit, and we need a region of Latin America and the Caribbean that can raise its voice as well as that of its farmers and highlight the 3 principles that IICA is promoting. Agricultural producers first, science and innovation as the foundation to foster this new effort of public policies, and agriculture as part of the solution and not of the problem. So I thank you very much for the opportunity. I wish you the best of success in this new challenge. You can count on IICA, and we will be with you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Don Manuel. We will now show you how we will develop this process of the rural youth uh, technological challenge. We will give you the explanation. My colleague Julio Solis, a colleague from the ICT, and myself will give you the presentation. Allow me just a moment. What has brought us together today? As we have mentioned on previous occasions, we have been working at IICA on different processes where rural youth has said they need a space to interact where they can exchange experiences and knowledge regarding agriculture. For this reason, ever since 2019, we have been working on different actions, and today, through this Rural Youth Challenge, we would like to bring this to life and build this hemispheric community of rural youth. So today, the technological challenge that will start this week seeks to overcome the absence of a virtual and face-to-face space for articulation that meets the needs of rural youth in the Americas and enhances their development and capacities to generate proposals and solutions through joint work. Now, what is the objective of this technological challenge? Well, first of all, it attempts to define and develop a technological tool that will give life to this hemispheric community of rural youth. The objective here is for all you participating teams to help us build a tool with contributions of creative ideas to develop creative ideas on technological aspects necessary to develop the community and that may respond to the interests of rural youth and take into account the construction of a new agriculture. How will we develop this process? Throughout this week, there will be 5 different sessions. As of tomorrow and until Friday, we will have 1 hour a day from 9 a.m. Costa Rica time to 10 a.m., where we will be counting on the participation of different specialists from our strategic partners who will give us awareness and sensitization presentations so that we become more familiar with the hemisphere community, the situation of rural youth, and how through the technological development we can give response and better build this community. Aside from these daily sessions, in the afternoons, we will have a team of mentors that will be responding any questions from 3 to 4 p.m. Costa Rica time through the Discord tool. And the teams that are already registered, we have sent you all a welcome kit. And there you will, every day, you will find the agendas and the different presentations we will be covering, as well as the information of our specialists that will be with us during those presentations, as well as additional information that you can use as a starting point to generate your proposal. Additionally, we will have a link that you will also find in the welcome kit where you can pose your questions through the Discord tool. At the end of this week, we would be asking you for a first outcome, and we will ask you for 2 deliverables. Those that reach the final phase, we will ask for 3 deliverables. We will expand on this in a moment. Some matters that we would like to cover throughout this week is, first of all, we would like to know in greater detail what the situation of rural youth is like, what the hemispheric community of rural youth is. And it is important to mention that this is not just a concept mentioned by IICA. No. This has been built through the questions posed to rural youth of the Americas, all of them in the conceptual challenge and in the survey we carried out last week helped us to all characterize this new community. And we will go over that. We will additionally see some elements we would like to see reflected in these technological proposals, gender, intersectionality, and inclusion, as well as practical case studies from our different strategic partners to help build this technological proposal. The practical cases, the case studies will be shared by Bayer, Fabretto, Universidad, Zamorano, and I4Nature. And additionally, we will cover elements related to technology with the Cenfotec University and the Purpose Launchpad with AI. How will we distribute the tasks throughout this challenge? As I was mentioning earlier, throughout the week, we will have daily talks from 9 to 10 a.m. Costa Rica time. And after that, we will have the mentoring sessions on the Discord platform from 3 to 4 p.m. Costa Rica time. This will begin today and will run through Friday, this coming Friday. On Friday, we will ask you to deliver your product number 1, and this shall be delivered prior to midnight Costa Rica time. And then from the 12th through the 15th, the teams will develop their product delivery number 2. We will see those in just a moment. The following week, well, on Friday the 15th, the teams must deliver their product number 2 by midnight. So from the week of the 19th through the 23rd, IICA will examine these products and we will select the finalists. The finalists will then proceed to deliver product number 3, and they will give a 20-minute presentation to a jury team also consisting of our strategic partners. There will be 20 minutes presentation as well as 20 minutes for comments from our jury team. On the 29th of April, we will be announcing on social media the winning idea. The deliverables we would be expecting are 3. First, this coming Friday was a conceptual scheme of the problem. We asked that you include all elements that were developed through the week. Additionally, product 2, which would be April the 15th, we would be expecting a database design and the source code. And those that reach the final step would be presenting a PowerPoint or a video with the solution, a demo of the solution showing their proposal of this technological tool. I will offer the floor to my colleague now. Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. As Priscilla was explaining about the deliverables, we have the conceptual framework first to ensure we understand what is expected, what product we expect. The database design source code to see the progress, and lastly, on the third would be a video or the presentation on the solution. Well, the guidelines for the criteria to use, well, we have defined these databases so that this is makes it easier to implement the solution sought and implemented on our platform. We have the operating system, the Windows Server, Linux, and the programming language, PHP 7.2C, JavaScript frameworks, Laravel, NetCore databases, MySQL, Microsoft SQL servers, and the libraries, as you can see here, as well as others. Remember, you can use other libraries, APIs, plugins, services, or software that are considered necessary, or applications that have already been developed, so that we can you can have a product for this issue. And if the solution visualization includes the development of an app for a mobile device, remember, it must be done with the tool that allows development both for Android as well as for iOS. In this case, we recommend using React Native. Now, the criteria to evaluate. Okay, as part of product 2, what we would expect is the source code and database is to have a visibility or show progress with the product, that it can be installed and revise it, or see that it has aspects like an implementation of feasibility, a user interface, security and administration with roles and users, et cetera, et cetera. And as I was saying, the execution of the solution itself. This product will be very, very important because this will be the starting point to move on to the next. This would be sort of like a semi-final. Those products or deliverables that approve this phase would come into the final phase of review, which would be product number 3, where a jury will examine that. They will examine the substance, the contents, and the functionality itself, the programming and database, that part had already been covered in product number 2. So product number 3 would be the final presentation itself and a defense of what you presented during the event. And that is the technical part. On Discord, we will be available, Olman Castro and myself, on one channel in case you have any doubt as to these matters, both language as well as anything on the technical side. We will be very glad there to support you. I offer the floor now back to you. Thank you, Julio. I would just like to remind you, those that reach the final, these would be the criteria for product 3, that we would evaluate user interface, technological and financial sustainability, that the proposal has novel and original elements, that we ensure alignment with the winning idea of the conceptual challenge and the youth context, and we can see that it is equitable and inclusive proposal. And the winning team, the winner will receive an award $4,000. So this is one of the elements we wanted to share with you. This is the reward for the winning team. And now we will offer the floor to Silvia Castellanos, one of our colleagues from Gender and Youth, and Mariela Zúñiga, a specialist of the Knowledge Management Center and Horizontal Cooperation. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. This event has the purpose of becoming the voice of rural youth that at other times have shared their experiences and perceptions of realities and of their different contexts. Therefore, we can put here on the table topics such as technology, productive participation, and leaderships also for rural youth, which are aspects that rural youth themselves have stressed as of vital importance for them to IICA. Now we are going to try to deal with each of these 3 concepts, beginning with leadership. And what a better way of doing this than speaking with my coworker, Mariela Zúñiga, who works in technical cooperation IICA. Mariela, would you care if I asked you something? No, Sylvia, go ahead. Well, what importance do you think that rural youth leadership should have in rural areas? Well, I want to tell you that rural youth made a few comments and suggestions in relation to the topic that you are mentioning. So I'm going to tell you what they told us. The first thing is to empower youth to become involved in activities linked to agriculture, to generate participation in spaces. This means to promote also associative processes and a leadership with knowledge on the territorial problems. This would be one of the answers that we had by the youth population. Now, Sylvia, I am going to ask you something. Where can we begin to promote leadership in youth? Well, the youth themselves told us not too long ago that it's important to generate spaces and leaderships for the youth from rural schools in order to have the youth themselves to approach that field, that scope, since they are really young, and that way they can define if they're interested, how they're interested, and how would they make their ideas become a reality, so that they can freely participate and they can come and participate in political decisions for which they should really become involved. And Mariela, what could you tell me about what you think or what role you think about what are the main issues of young people in rural situations? Well, Sylvia, for this question, we have this answer that is divided into different areas that the youth told us. The first one is related to the lack of services, or because there is not much of a opportunity for finding jobs, formal education, and productive resources, as well as training and access to technological and resources and ICTs. That's one of the problems that currently need to be faced by rural youth. The other issue is linked to sociocultural problems, where there is a gender inequality, there is violence, the situation is adult centric, which is affecting youth, migration, drugs, alcohol, and crime. And one last category would be invisibilization. What does this mean? Rural youth feel that they are not valued. Due to the role of adults, there is also an issue regarding discrimination, lack of spaces for participation, and there is not much promotion on youth leadership. Well, yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mariela. This has been an extremely interesting conversation. I don't know what you think if we could speak now a little bit more about technologies, which is another fundamental topic for rural youth. And it is of great interest for people who will be participating on this challenge in the future. If you want, I can tell you one story of many that we really experience in relation to this topic in rural areas of many of the countries in the Americas. I can begin by telling you that at least 77 million people living in rural areas of Latin America and the Caribbean lack connectivity with minimum quality standards. And only 50% of the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean have specific measurements on connectivity in rural settings. Once we have clarified this, I'm going to tell you the story of Laura. Laura is a rural young woman who, from a very young age, wanted to continue with her family's agricultural business. Unlike what happens many times with young people who inherit their parents' land, but are forced to sell it due to lack of access to resources. As she grew up, in her spare time, she accompanied her sister to the fields. And while watching her work, she made sure to learn what her job would be like in a few years as well, if she was lucky enough. Laura grew up and then was able to make the decision to continue training or not. She had the opportunity uh, to go to college. She chose agricultural engineering despite the low uh, female participation in technical careers. Then she moved to the capital city where she learned enough to contribute to the family business. However, the experience did not remain there. She was able to verify what she already knew, that there were great differences between what one lives in rural and in urban areas. One of the ones that affected her the most was how well technologies work and the simple and almost organic access to them, such as internet, university computers, and even to some inventions that could be very useful to increase productivity and to take care of her family's land. Laura discovered practices and acquired knowledge that could reduce the difficulties that her family had to go through. In addition, she came up with some ideas that could help improve not only their crops, but also the sale of their products. She was full of ideas. She thought about setting up a website or creating social networks and a brand for her products, which would allow her greater access to markets and improve the sustainability of her business and their family's business for it to prosper so that they would not need to get to the point of selling it. And she would then have to dedicate herself to different kinds of jobs in the city. While researching these ideas, she found a devastating fact, which is that in her country, only 37% of of people in rural areas had access to internet. At that moment was when she realized that technology and communications can contribute to the development of agriculture in rural areas. And at the same time, this was the reason why so many young people migrated to the city. The reality was that not everyone has the opportunity to return home and work in what they like, in this case, agriculture, precisely due to a lack of opportunities where the digital divide, among other inequalities, play a very important role. Very well. Once I told you this short story, it's important for you to take into account that, well, rural youth face situations of poverty, of lack of opportunities in topics related to health, education, access to information and technology, as well as a lack of options to stay if they want to empower and repopulate rural areas. This short story that we have just told you is nothing more than a fictitious example of many things that do happen in real life. It is part of the work of IICA, its partners, and now it's yours too. In order to be able to work on the importance of generating a community from the technological perspective, taking into account the difficulties that may arise in rural areas in the Americas in relation to access to connectivity and internet as it may be limited. Very well, Sylvia. Thank you very much for telling us this story, which I believe really reflects the reality of rural youth. We're now going to briefly summarize what we have been able to see thanks to that survey that we held and of the fora that we have held for rural youth. We saw that first topic on leadership, the importance that the young people highlight to be able to make their voice heard in many things related to their day to day. We also heard about technology, which is very important, and it is a tool and a safe tool for them, for uh, boys and girls as well, but which must be reinforced. Now we're going to take a look at productive participation from the rural perspective. We are going to begin with this activity of myth and reality. We're going to tell you some statements and we'll see if the statement is true or false in relation to the context and the day-to-day experienced by rural youth. The first one is related to the fact that do rural youth have optimal tools for their development? We are going to see that the answer is definitely no. Rural youth tell us that they need to have better tools for development of knowledge for the rural value chain. This would allow having a better infrastructure and marketing of their products. It is also important to mention that when we speak about tools, we can also talk about innovation. Rural youth then have the opportunity and the capacity to be able to use innovation, which is a characteristic of the whole population of young people, to be able to use innovation, not to have it not only associated to technology, to be able to use their tools, the ones they have, to be able to adapt them to their needs. The second one is related to migration. It says migration is part of the daily life of rural youth. Yet the answer definitely is yes. This is totally true. It is very common for universities to be in cities. This means that young people usually have to leave rural areas to go to the city and access higher education. Here we can also say that not only is reference made to education, but also there's migration due to a search for technical training or for looking for better work opportunities. And the last one for production is the digital gap a reality faced by rural youth? The answer is yes. This is totally true in terms of connectivity. As long as and the connectivity with rural areas, there is going to be inequalities because there are going to we're going to continue having this problem. The gap will still be there. And the subject of connectivity, which is something that came up frequently in the fora and in the surveys, is in relation to the access that youth have to adapted devices. This means that they do not have cell phones, computers, or other devices that allow them uh, having good connectivity. And also, they do not have the resources, whether economic or others, to be able to access these devices. So we are told that it is very important for them all, and they do consider this as a key factor to be able to have financing lines or public policies that might be provided by consensus to rural youth to be able to improve all their lives in all these scopes. We are almost reaching the end of this dialogue that, as Silvia was saying at the beginning, what we wanted was really to reproduce the voice of all these young people who spoke about their reality. So in this space, we have been able to see the importance of the participation of young people, where we see that we have people involved in agriculture, technology, culture, and this way, they have contributed with their great initiatives, proving that an idea can be transformed into a big project. The dream can become a reality. We also would like to emphasize on the importance and a recommendation that they have given us, which is the generation of public policies, which is so important, so that, and also to know what is the reality of rural youth, because they're working on the land and crops, environment, which are topics that for rural youth are extremely important. And just as important is the a possibility of listening and supporting them. Silvia, I give you back the floor for you to introduce the next section. Thank you, Mariela. Now we are going to go on to introduce the creating team of the winning idea of this first challenge, the conceptual challenge for the generation of a hemisphere community of rural youth. Go ahead, Raíz Rural team. That would be rural root in English. Hello, good morning. I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Maria Brandolini. We are the team that participated last year in this youth challenge. Our name is Raíz Rural or Rural Root. This is the name, these are the members of the team: Gilberto Garcia, Juan David Caro, who's not with us today, Carlos Camacho, myself, and Victoria Ortega, who was not able to join us today either. We are going to be introducing the promotion, the innovation in agriculture, the purpose of our team, and the objectives that we have taken into account. How do we visualize the user experience in the community, sustainability of the platform, indicators to measure success, governance scheme in the community, and agriculture in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So let's begin. Hello, good morning. Agriculture in the Americas represents a big potential and also big challenges. The good performance of the agricultural sector and economy are very important to prevent the increase in poverty. Under this context, we have the need of improving potential and productivity of farmers, as development and adaptation of new technologies is a way to achieve this. Innovation occurs when we adopt individually and collectively new ideas, technologies, or processes that, if they are successful, they are spread out through communities and societies. In this encounter, we are reaching innovation on something that's new or something that is existing already, but is used for the first time or is very new. Let's take a look at the graph we have on the screen. Let's see that the trend of the number of users connected to the internet in the American continent has a positive growth. Continuing with this trend entails greater interaction of users with virtual schemes, making it possible to have activities like education or distance training and e-commerce in agriculture, including, of course, rural population and rural youth that soon are going to be the generational relay in agriculture. These are young people who are constantly trying to do things differently. I leave you with my colleague now. Let's move on to the massive transforming purpose of Raíz Rural. Taking a look at this, Raíz Rural has as its purpose to build a community under an environment of psychosocial well-being with rural youth in the hemisphere generating socialization, conservation, and creation of knowledge in the agricultural sector. What will be the experience in the community? Well, as we belong in this community and we have access to the virtual space, we're going to be finding different fora of free topics to promote co-creation of knowledge, and we will be able to receive asynchronous courses and organic certification workshops as in order to exchange agricultural products and psychological support to the members. And lastly, we're going to be supporting the entrepreneurship of the members. The objective of this proposal differs from the initiative that's centered on profit and accumulation of shares. However, we do require economic resources to continue and maintain our analogous systems that are necessary for the project. Thus, we think about getting capital through a commission fund with an e-shop, which is one of the options that we have in our project. For products and supplies in the agricultural sector, according to the sales expectations, keeping 6% of the total movements once a sale is made is a relatively low percentage. But if we compare it to digital commercial platforms, this would be enough to cover up for operational expenses. In order to measure the success of the platform, once we are in operation, we must be aware that everything that is used must follow a strategic line to be able to measure and analyze data. We propose 3 aspects that need to be taken into account. 1 is a user traffic, 2, average duration of the visit, and 3, channels and traffic sources. In relation to psychosocial well-being, we believe that as we are a community, it's important to work on human capital, which is defined as a satisfactory personal development status, ways of facing vital challenges and efforts to achieve goals, as well as in the evaluations that make of the circumstances and their functioning within society. This has to be an environment that causes people to develop more to be able to reach their goals. The measurement of well-being is going to be through the methodology of the test-retest, which is a test at the beginning and another test sometime later on to measure psychosocial well-being. The expectations that we have is that 60% of the members are at a high level of social and psychological well-being. And in relation to the satisfaction with the platform, that would be the user experience, we hope that 50% or more of the users are very satisfied or totally satisfied with the experience. Now we're going to be talking about the governance scheme in the community. Governance is one of the main reasons by which this proposal is disruptive and efficient, as we generate clubs of rural youth that are going to be comprised by each person that is facing the problems and will design a different lifestyle. These clubs will allow creating circles of leaders represented at the regional state level. These circles together are going to be able to represent rural youth regionally or at the state level. They're going to be able to comprise a national rural youth council, allowing for transparent interaction of the different rural areas in Latin America and the Caribbean. This community represents a council of rural youth of the hemisphere, which heads to a sustainable future in cooperation with the land. Together with this process of the community, we're going to have important mentors that will represent this project, such as different universities, IICA, etc., through virtual platforms, conservation meetings of circles and councils. Next, please. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and agriculture in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Food and agriculture are in the midst of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, whether to end poverty and hunger, to fight climate change, or to protect our natural resources. Thus, we must strengthen our union as a community of youth in the Americas and guide our efforts to strengthen and contribute to compliance with the SDGs. Let's not wait until others invent. Let's do it ourselves. Thank you very much for listening to us. Priscilla, could you please run the video? Thank you. Yes, we will do so right away. Imagine a young community, creative, where your voice counts. A community together with more than 160 million young people in the Americas that are seeking for an opportunity for progress without having to leave their roots behind. These roots that are your home, your culture, your ancestry, your land. Imagine that in this community, you can learn and build experiences on agriculture and livestock, promoting the place where you live. And at the same time that you share with other young people all the knowledge that you have acquired. This community is Raíz Rural, a virtual platform in which the gap between technology and the rural setting disappears following a disruptive, transparent partnership in pursuit of your well-being and progress. Did you imagine that already? Well, now you're the one in charge of building that community. We trust you, and we want you to trust in this dream, because it requires for us to be together, and it requires our talent to overcome current challenges of agriculture in the hemisphere. Let's trust in Raíz Rural, and let's begin making it a reality. Excellent. Well, that would be our participation. If you have any questions or comments, we would wait for IICA to tell us to be able to continue should you have any question. Thank you very much. Good morning to all. Before beginning with my presentation, I want to remind you that you can follow us through the social networks of the Institute and comments through Zoom and social media. We have the Menti code in case you have any questions on what we're discussing today. The purpose of my intervention is to highlight some of the contributions of the other participating teams and the conceptual part, which is the first part. The contributions of these teams will be presented under the following topics: uses of the tool, communication, cultural diversity and linguistics, financial sustainability, and technological aspects. Okay, we need to clarify before beginning that the contributions that are mentioned are the proposal of virtual community. We have very valuable contributions, which so that the community can carry them out presentially afterwards. But now we are going to be speaking about virtuality. The first contribution is done by the team that's called Palenque Ayala, which proposes that within the platform and the technological tool, we have an observatory platform which would help us introduce statistics and data related to rural youth and agriculture so that they can constantly inform the people that are part of this. The same team also proposes that as part of the community, we create commissions that will be in charge of investigation and diagnosing issues related to rural youth in agriculture. Some examples of these commissions would be a commission for gender equality, a commission for food sovereignty, a commission for training and professionalism, one cultural commission, a technology commission. The idea is that these commissions can contribute with specific aspects of interest for the community. Another contribution by the Agroinnova team is that within the community, we create a system of an alternative currency. The idea is that young people who perhaps do not have money to participate in economic activities may use what they produce to become a part of it. So they're proposing a barter system so that we can get in exchange products from of a similar value of what we have, and this way we can promote interactions. The team that's called Youth for Progress for Agricultural Development is proposing that as part of the community, we can carry out mentorship processes. This would work that within the web page or technological tool, people can register there as mentors so that they can provide advice and support to people to be mentored for developing their own entrepreneurships in agriculture. And lastly, in relation to the uses of the tool, the AgBuddies team proposes that aside from the fora and interactive processes mentioned for the tool, we carry out webinars. And webinars have interactive processes and tools related to systemic thinking, human-centered design, and design thinking. We would then move on to the proposals made in terms of communication. The first of these proposals is made by the team called Mais. And the proposal is about an agricultural radio station. This would be good not only for training and information through this same space, but it could also be used for debate and exchange of knowledge in rural youth. Also, the team that is called Organización para el Desarrollo Ambiental y Cambio Climático, that would be for environmental development and climate change, would like the community to have social media, the ones that are most common, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. These might be used in the first place to share what is done as part of the community to attract more people, and also for training and information on participating people. And also it could work so that rural youth can position and sell their products without the need of intermediaries. And lastly, in this aspect, the AgBuddies group is proposing that in this platform we have enabled instant messaging so that people in more local communities can route messaging like WhatsApp and Messenger to contact in a more efficient manner and develop more local initiatives.
As to cultural and linguistic diversity, there are several proposals here that are very interesting. The first is the Agroinnova team that propose to revalue and foster knowledge and ancestral practices. How? By including them in the different spaces of communities. Related to this, the team Organización para el Desarrollo Ambiental y Cambio Climático presents the idea of holding activities to recover this ancestral knowledge. And an example they give is to use the denominations in native languages to rescue this know-how. They propose an interactive meeting room for training and exchange of knowledge. They suggest Ichachawasi as a way to rescue this knowledge. The Youth for Progress through Agricultural Development team proposes that the tool should operate in different languages used throughout the hemisphere. It would be Spanish, English, Portuguese, and French, but we must add the need for the platform to be left open to add native languages, the native languages, so as to encompass all rural communities of the continent. As to financial sustainability, the Agrowayo team proposes that people that are part of the community and that have the experience can become organized and on behalf of the community provide training, fairs, and activations with people from outside the community that would pay for these services. The idea then is for this to generate income for the community itself and ensuring thus financial sustainability. And lastly, as to technological aspects, the EquiCert team proposes, well, that the tool have a public side and a part for modeling, that the moderators of the page can work actively to ensure that all interactions on the platform be within a framework of respect. They have added the need for the tool to be compatible with different operating systems. I would like to remind the participating teams of this technological challenge is that both the proposal and well as this information is in the welcome tip, in the welcome kit. So take advantage of that. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you, Raul. We would now move into the question session, and we will read some of these. The first question is, well, good morning. I would like to know about supporting materials as well as the possibility to have access to the presentations. Yes, of course. The coordinating team through the Welcome Kit is making all the daily presentations and agendas available to you. If you do not yet have the Welcome Kit, please send us an email, genero.iica@int, and we will be very glad to share the links with you, and as well as access to the kit. Write to us, excuse me. Oh. May we be in touch with the Raíz Rural during the challenge? I offer the floor to Raíz Rural to answer that one. Hello. Allow me to say that we would be very willing to support whatever you may need. If you have any question, please send it to our emails. I will share those with you via the chat or social media as you feel more comfortable. We will be with you during the challenge, and we will be available during the video conferences as well as through electronic means. But of course, we are here to help. Thank you, Gilberto. We will add the emails to the welcome kit in case you have any specific questions or if you need to elaborate on the proposal. Where can we register? Well, the registration page was through Desafío de Innovación website. However, in case you did not receive the information, please write genero.juventud@iica.int, and today we will send the information. It is important to mention as additional information that the people that want to participate can register individually. And through the Discord platform, we can find a team. The teams must consist of 2 people, 2 to 5 people maximum. That is important to mention. Another question is, how can we improve connectivity in vulnerable areas? How can IICA help in this? Well, allow me to highlight two studies that have been carried out through cooperation with our strategic partners here at IICA, so that you can consult some of their conclusions in greater detail. The first is the study on digital gender inequality in Latin America and the Caribbean, and we have the support of the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, the International Agricultural Development Fund, IFAD, and Oxford University. And together with this, we have another study called Digital Skills in the Rural World, an Imperative to Reduce Gaps in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we also have the support of the IDB and Microsoft. So for further information, we recommend you visit this repository and see the main results of these studies. Another question is, how can we develop a technological tool and be clear as to the importance of cultural development? Will IICA help us with that? Well, precisely that is why we are carrying out this technological challenge, because together with rural youth, we want to build the way in which this technological tool will become a reality to, in the future, create this hemispheric community of rural youth. At IICA, we are very much interested in listening to youth, their needs, and this process aims at responding to that, to build together. It is also important to highlight that our strategic partners are always with us in this process. This is very, very important. Could you share the social media? Well, you can find us via Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as IICA. Yes, I was just confirming with the team. Yes, through IICA. Another question, where to register. Let me repeat, if you have not received the information, write to us, genero.juventud@iica.int. Methodologies for public policies, we also recommend you consult our institutional repository, and you can find that through the IICA website, iica.int, our official page, and you will find all information available at the Institute. Well, for the time being, these are the main questions we have. Remember that through Discord, you can form your teams. If you registered individually, remember, teams must consist of 2 up to 5 people. Today, we will be connected once again from 3 to 4 p.m. Costa Rica time to address any questions you may have. I would like to offer the floor to Loide, our Deputy Director General. Thank you, Priscilla. Greetings to everyone, particularly thanks to Gilberto, Carlos Antonio, and Maria from Mexico and Peru, right? Beautiful countries, very rich cultures, by the way. And greetings also to my colleagues from Spain, Silvia and Carlos. It is a pleasure to see you as always. And I would like to thank everyone here in the meeting room, Priscilla, Mariela, Diana, Olman, Julio, Raul, Adriana as usual, Gustavo. This is the youth team here at IICA that is helping us in all these things. Some are not as young any longer. Some of the millennials are about to turn 40, no longer necessarily young people, but anyway, today we are beginning a very interesting week. We are trying to translate an idea into a technological tool that will contribute to closing gaps or bridging gaps that our youth from the continent faces every day. 2 years ago, we published the framework of reference for youth, uh, charting our roadmap with the approaches we focus on to work with youth. Allow me to share some of these guidelines with you because the hemispheric community of rural youth of the Americas and the process we are accompanying now, we want you youth, you youngsters to define it based on what is established in our framework of reference. We work with youth from 6 different angles. First, the angle of human rights, because we believe in the exercise of citizenship and the participation of youth in public policies with a strategic interest and focus on building an integrated community which is equitable and fair. Second, a focus on youth, because we recognize that youth are integral participants in all the economic, social, human rights, and they are protagonists of their own development, active subjects of public policies in defense of their rights. 3, the approach of equality, because we say that rights are part of the integral development of every individual, regardless of any action, and we insist on the respect of all people in building public policies. 4, gender. We are aware that identities are the result of biological differences amongst sexes. And these translate in inequalities that mainly affect young women, and it is necessary to recognize the effects and differentiated impacts between men and women, youth, of any action aimed at youth. 5, while the integral approach is based on the principle that human rights must be enforced in an integral manner and must be considered in all public policies, they must contribute to the integral development of youth from the different angles: biological, psychological, affective, spiritual, and social cultural. 6, and last, cultural diversity, based on the principle that young people are part of communities with different cultural diversities. Mexico, Peru, Costa Rica, for example, that enrich their vision and contributions. All of this enhances the lines of action and our roadmap with you, the youth of Latin America and the Caribbean. These are first the creation and strengthening of public policies aimed at youth in rural areas. There is a series of challenges for the implementation of these instruments, one of which is the limited information available on youth in rural areas, and therefore a first effort should aim at strengthening the data and knowledge of their living conditions. We want to foster in our countries an increase of policies and actions aimed at access for youth to services and resources to improve their quality of life in rural areas, and that can contribute to the agri-food production in a sustainable manner and technological innovation, and an increase in competitiveness and access to national and regional markets. Next, and perhaps most important for me, is the training and development of skills, of living skills for youth in rural areas, because we want to influence the technical and technological supply based on the demands of young women and men, favoring the development of skills, knowledge that can favor agricultural entrepreneurialism and sustainable values by creating spaces of intergenerational knowledge and ensuring technological knowledge, sharing lessons and exchanging among peers. For me, this is very important. I have seen this in my career, particularly when I was working in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Some youth groups that had such great success that some are partners today of this exercise. 4-H, for example, that has created clubs worldwide to train agricultural leaders, young leaders throughout the world. We must learn from them. We must learn from other partners that are with us, Bayer, Eye for Nature, Zamorano, Cenfotec, AI Fabretto, and others that can join this initiative to provide the training to create new young leaders that can help this process. You are the future. You hear this continuously, but that is the reality. The world is changing. I am seeing in social media that we see Facebook and Instagram. All of that stuff is for old guys. Everything is changing. You are changing that. I just saw a group that you mentioned. There was a group that came here to IICA last week that are going to completely change the marketplace. We're no longer going to have the trade shows worldwide exchanging and all of that. Everything will be virtual. Everyone is connected. This is basically a product, Kinder, and everybody laughs and says that is funny, but that is what will happen. And then we must ensure access to resources focused on the need to increase access of rural youth to financial, commercial resources and other productive means that will ensure their incorporation in the agri-food chain in a competitive, favorable manner for their own development and for the sustainable progress of their territories. And that is also very important. We need to bring down to earth what we do with the people in the rural areas so that they are more productive with all the necessary public policies that may benefit them. And that perhaps is the most difficult part, because public policies are not built to help in that, except for education and training. Everything is focused on the resources for producers, but you are the young producers, so it is very, very important for us to give you and work with the member states to focus on how we can help youth. All countries have the same challenges. Producers are of a bigger age, let's call it that way, people like me. The fourth line of action is leadership and organizational development of youth in rural areas. Organizational development of youth is something necessary to strengthen the positioning of their demands, proposals, and interests in decision-making spaces locally, nationally, and internationally. Precisely that is why we can serve as an important bridge for this group of youth so that they can have their say with the ministers of agriculture of the different countries. I do not know of any other entity that could have that type of access. So your participation, your contribution to us so that we can also learn is so important and valuable. Thank you very much for your participation in this effort, in help us creating a new group of youth here at IICA. As of now, you will support us to give more and better responses to other youth so that they are part of the hemispheric group of the Americas. Thank you for all your contributions, even without any recognition. At IICA, we want to change that, and we are doing it through those spaces where your ideas, knowledge, and dreams are the cornerstone of a difference. Together, we work building the new agriculture of the Americas. Thank you so very much to all my colleagues here, Priscilla, and thank you all. We hope we can continue moving forward with you. As our Director General says, here we go and on we go. I would like to thank our Deputy Director, Lloyd Day. He is certainly one of the biggest defenders of this dialogue and intergenerational participation. He has supported us throughout this process, and we certainly have to take advantage of this institutional framework with which the youth can count to build this new agriculture. We are ending this morning's session, this first session of the technological challenge of rural youth. We would like our partners, I4Nature, Fabreto, the different participants, Bayer, Zamorano, University, and as Don Loy said, we hope new organizations and networks of young people can join us so that we can truly become the hemispheric community of rural youth of the Americas. We will see you here at 3 p.m. for the first mentoring session. The link for the Discord platform is in your welcome kit we shared with you. So we will see you at 3 p.m. Costa Rica time. I would like to invite you to follow us through the social media throughout the week. These events will be recorded on Facebook in Spanish and YouTube in English. We thank you very much, and we hope to see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Costa Rica time, and the first mentoring session this afternoon at 3 p.m. Costa Rica time. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you.